Mine isn't on.
Check. Nope.
Hello, mine works.
Councilmember Porter is absent. Councilmember Middleton,
Present.
Councilmember Kavanaugh,
Present.
Councilmember Dundon,
Present.
Councilmember Costi,
Present.
Councilmember Hotchkiss,
Present.
Council President Matavetsky.
Present.
Thank you.
Great. I'll turn things over to Councilman Middleton, who will be filling in for Councilman Porter. We'll invite up Chief Zikuski, and I'll let Councilman Middleton take it away.
Hi, good evening, Chief. This is the RL 24-139. It's a resolution to accept funding from the District Attorney's Office to assist with expenses related to discovery and pretrial. Can you explain that
It is.
to us?
In 2020, the state legislature passed
Push
law.
the mic down a little bit. There you go.
2020,
Hit it one more time. There you go.
right, in 2020, a lot of criminal justice reforms, the state passed the legislature. They passed on many millions of dollars to all the district attorney's offices throughout the state to assist in one of the main requirements is discovery, which says we have a very short window to present everything we have to defense attorneys when somebody's arrested. Everything from body cameras to even a scratch notes, anything like that. So it's very time consuming. And so the money went from the Department of Criminal Justice Services to the Broome County District Attorney's Office, who could distribute those funds as they saw fit. So this is funding to fund a position to do those duties now that are being shared by 2 to 3 people in my department, picking up the slack.
Okay. And so this is for, it looks like there's gonna be 82,000. That's gonna be for the,
That's salary and fringe benefits
Okay.
for a position, yes.
okay, thank you so much for responding to that. Also, can you just kind of explain to us, so will your office will still be doing the investigation? You just have to hand it over to them?
This is everything that goes to the, when we make an arrest, depending whether it's a misdemeanor or felony, everything's got to go to the district attorney's office, which goes to the defense attorney within a set guidelines of time. So for certain crimes, there's very little time at all. So this has nothing to do with the investigation itself. This is clerical work.
Okay,
Gathering all the body camera, all the reports, any video, anything we have. And the smallest mistake could toss the whole case, even if it's it was a reasonable mistake.
okay. Mike?
Chief, I have a question. So with this position, is this going to be just for like 1 year for that 82, or is this something that's going to be continuously funded?
I just got notified, hopefully continuously, I just got notified by the DA today, actually, that the money for the next year has already been approved. He just got notification.
Okay.
So we're good for 2 years at this point.
Okay.
So at this point, we're good for 2 years.
Any further questions? Councilman Hotchkiss.
Yeah, I think I know the answer to this, but so are other municipalities applying for the same pool of funding through the DA's
Every
office?
DA's office got this funding, depending on the size, how much they got. He, meeting with the chiefs, determined their needs, like, I won't mention a smaller department, maybe got a half-time position, not a full. We handle almost as many crimes as the rest of all the other police agencies put together in the county. So it was determined, him and I, in my conversation with District Attorney Battisti, we needed a full-time position. It's my understanding 1 or 2 of the smaller departments got a half-time position.
Thank you. And so is this going to be a new person, or are you hiring from within the department?
You have to be determined. We're gonna have to hire somebody. We're gonna see who's the best fit. Whether it's somebody outside is more qualified or one of the people we have doing that currently. As I said, it's being shared. It's done mainly by 1 person, but it's being shared basically by 3 people on or off.
Thank you.
Chief, would this position be covered under the police PBA?
No.
Okay, so they'd be CSEA
It'd
then.
be management tested.
Okay, all right, thank you.
Any further questions?
Thank
Sure.
you.
I got curious,
Oh.
why the structure is under the department versus under the keeping it at the county level? What is it? What's it? I guess walk me
I'm
through a
not
little bit.
sure what the question is. This is the way it's done throughout the state.
Okay,
You know, every police agency is required to do this discovery, regardless of your size, whatever it is. That would go to the local district attorney's office, which every county in the state has a district attorney's office.
Okay.
So the district attorney has his own discovery people that we send this to. And he got a lot of money for this. So every police department, regardless of their size, is required by the state to provide this information to their district attorney's office. So obviously, we have all that stuff, not the county.
Mhm.
We have the records, we have our police reports, we have our video, we have our body cameras. So all that information, regardless of what the department is generating within the department.
Okay.
And then it's shipped to the district attorney. It's his responsibility to get it to the defense attorney within the guidelines, of set timeline.
thank you. Anyone else? Councilman Hotchkiss.
Yeah, lastly, the award amount is 1.1, a little over $1.1 million that came to the district attorney, and so 82,000 is coming to cover this position. Do you know where the rest of that grant money is going outside of positions
I
to,
do not,
for
that's up to
discovery?
the district attorney's discretion. You know, I know all the police agencies are getting some funding for this in the county. I know he's got his own stuff, but I'm sure he's got, the application was long. He's got guidelines that he's got to stick to, but I do not know where the funding's going, the rest of it.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Thank you so much for coming down.
Thank you. Have a good night.
Thank you, Chief.
Yeah.
You had a question?
Next, we have RL 24-136. And I'll hand it over to Councilman Middleton, Chair of MPA. And I believe our Corporation Counsel is filling in for Deputy Mayor.
Yes, I will be
Yeah.
filling in
Great.
for Deputy Mayor Hyman.
Thank you. So this is RL 24-136. And an ordinance to repeal the 292 noise of the city charter and code ordinance. So can you explain that to us?
Sure. So actually, the next two are interrelated. So if it's
Do
okay.
you want
I'll
me?
do them-
Yeah, I was
I'll
gonna
do them
ask you.
together.
Yeah.
Essentially, chapter 292, it would be a repeal and replace. The current chapter 292 is, for lack of a better word, a bit outdated
Mhm.
and highly technical and convoluted, requiring the use of decibel meters, and it's not really practical in today's day and age.
Mhm.
So what we started doing when we heard complaints from our law enforcement officers and our code officials and citizens is looking into legislation in other like similarly situated municipalities that might make sense. So looking at Syracuse, this is modeled the attachment to the RL 24-137 is modeled largely after Syracuse, but also cross-referenced with Rochester. And I think it provides not only definitions and clarity, but also a more intuitive and practical common sense way for our law enforcement and to enforce this section, as well as citizens to understand the parameters of what is and is not permitted. And it's much more specific and I think gives better guidelines.
So thank you. So a few questions. Is there gonna be a plan to implement this, like change out? Once we, if this is passed, like, do we have a plan on how we're going to set this out so everyone's aware of this new ordinance?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure we'll let code and Binghamton Police Department know that the prior 292 had been repealed and replaced. It will be literally repealed and replaced online and in the actual charter and code so that anyone, law enforcement, citizens, staff, city hall employees can refer to it and know what is and is not permitted regarding noise.
Okay. And I had some other questions. I thought I saw, maybe I'm wrong. The fines. Is that on here? Okay. Can you just like kind of explain the fine, the fines and what happens with that?
So you're referring to section 292-19?
Mm-hmm.
So that would be the penalties for violations. Obviously, if someone is charged with a violation of this section, it's an allegation. Should they plead guilty or be found guilty of an offense in violation of this chapter, there can be a fine from $500 or imprisonment not to
Whoa.
exceed 15 days.
Yeah.
Or a civil action.
Okay, so on to that. So how it says violations regardless of the number of any one day shall be considered one violation for that day. So how do you know, like, is it just determined like on a decision from like someone just determines that it was a violation? So what if you just like an example. So like what if someone says, well, I don't think I'm in violation of that. And like, how does that work? Like, do they have to go to court for this? Like,
Yeah, it would be like any other violation, right? So they would get a ticket. They could certainly dispute, that they were not violating this section of the law. That's their prerogative. Obviously, on the flip side, anyone that's charging somebody with a violation of this section would have to prove that there was in fact a violation. And that's laid out pretty specifically in the proposed revisions.
and sorry, so I'm still on to that. So $500, is there a way maybe we could possibly like work up to that? Cause I feel like $500, like we know that we need a noise ordinance, but I feel like $500 is kind of like
So it is discretionary.
okay,
It's not to exceed $500.
okay.
I think
Oh, go ahead. Yeah, I'm done.
Councilman Kavanaugh.
so the noise ordinance has been brought up a few times and we've been here the last 7 months, including by me a number of times. I think there's good work that's been done here in modernizing this, but I don't think we're there yet. I think this is a draft. I think City Council needs to have a much closer look at this. I have several things, including some aspects of the old. For example, the declaration of policy in the current ordinance, I think actually lays out why a noise ordinance is a good thing in a city. This one kind of reads, and maybe it's a little flowery, but this one just reads like you woke up grumpy and you want noise to go away, as our declaration of policy, as well as using this administrator language and narrowing who's able to enforce this to the chief of police, the designee, where in the current version, I believe we have Parks and Code mentioned. Code, I think, makes a lot of sense as a possible person to be a regular enforcer of this, and somebody that's used to issuing, has power to issue citations and things. So I think that needs to be looked at. Also, this seems to remove the sort of variance process that we used for earlier this year, which I don't know is something that council wants to give up. So I don't know what other people's feelings are, but based on the number of factors, I think we need to consider the time we need to spend on this. I'd like to refer it to committee where we can work on it further without rushing to a vote. So that would be my motion, unless somebody wants to ask more questions now.
I'll second Robert's motion.
Motion to
To refer to
committee.
MPA committee.
MPA committee by Councilman Kavanaugh, seconded by Councilman Dundon. Any discussion on that motion?
No, I agree. I think we definitely need to like hash it out and there's so many things to it. I just worry that it's going to be misused. There's a lot of people, you just never know like how someone's feeling and then like how do you prove that? Like, one person says one thing, like I just think there's a lot of vagueness in it.
Okay. So do we want to take a vote on referring to committee? Clerk,
Councilmember,
call the roll.
Councilmember Middleton,
Aye.
Councilmember Kavanaugh,
Aye.
Councilmember Dundon,
Aye.
Councilmember Costi,
Aye.
Councilmember Hotchkiss.
Aye.
Council President Matavetsky.
Aye.
Thank you. That's 6-0.
So this, the noise ordinance will be sent to the MPA committee for further work. All right.
Two.
Councilman Hotchkiss.
And just I'm happy to facilitate too. I was involved in the drafting. If you
Okay.
could keep me in the loop, we can make sure everybody
Sure.
has a consistent draft and collaboration is certainly important. So I appreciate that.
Thank you.
And Hotchkiss.
Yeah, I'm curious, our first run-in with like noise ordinances was the special permit that was granted to Abel's. Would that, if this hypothetically passed today, is that not grandfathered in?
Should be.
Or would it have to go through a different process for the,
I'm not specifically recalling, I don't want to give you misinformation.
Okay.
I can certainly look into the details of that special, I think it was a special use variance.
Yes,
Uh,
that was
so-
repeated for a long duration.
Yeah, I don't know that
weekly.
there would be overlap, but I'm happy to look into it and provide feedback for council within the next few days.
That would be helpful.
Sure.
thanks. Yeah, and my first read over this, my feeling is that there's a lot of, the administrator has a lot of authority and it might be misused. That's all.
Mhm. Okay, so are we good to move on? Okay,
Yeah.
so next we have RL 24-138. I'll pass things over to Councilman Dundon, Chair of Public Works and Parks, and our Corporation Council is again our presenter.
So this is a resolution authorizing the mayor to enter into a contract for the purchase of St. Mary's Recreation Center. Little summary, the city received a congressional award of $1 million to establish a City of Binghamton Recreation Center. The city accepted this award through R 24-16 with a view towards purchasing the St. Mary's Recreation Center for this purpose. This resolution would allow the mayor to sign the contract with St. Mary's for the purpose of purchasing it for approximately $500,000 minus credit to the city for cost of survey to be determined to become the site of the City of Binghamton Youth Rec Center. Sophie, anything you'd like to add to that, please?
I can provide a little bit of context. Back in March, council voted to approve the acceptance of the $1 million award from the United States Congress with a view towards establishing a Binghamton City Youth Rec Center. I think everybody was here when Pat McGinnis, our prior Parks Commissioner, gave a very beautiful presentation and explained the hurdles that had been faced by the city getting this underway. And now we have an opportunity to purchase kind of an already built rec center for the youth of the city of Binghamton for $500,000 minus the cost of a survey. So I'm open to any questions, if there are any specifics. This just allows the mayor to enter into a contract purchasing the rec center. Certainly, after that real estate transaction is completed, there will need to be assessments and various renovations to conform the use to the city's purposes.
I don't have any questions. I mean, until we can purchase the building and see what Ron Lake and engineering and everybody says, excuse me, I think it's a good idea. I think for the city to have a rec center that close to the park, and to build one from scratch would be tens of 20s of millions of dollars versus 500,000. So.
Councilman Hotchkiss.
Yeah, I hope that we could arrange a tour because I haven't been in this building at all and I'm curious about the condition and that would help me make this decision. It's not like that difficult of a decision, but it's still be nice to put things into context.
Sure. I did request that it be expedited, obviously. The sooner we can get closed on this real estate transaction, the sooner we can get in there and start conforming it to the use that best serves our city's youth, which is obviously a very important goal.
So who would you like, is there someone I should reach out to set up a tour or can you facilitate that or how does that?
Yeah, I mean, we can certainly facilitate that.
Great.
I'll make the motion to expedite this.
I'll second.
Right, motioned for expedition by Councilman Dundon, seconded by Councilman Costi. Any discussion on that? If not, the clerk can call the roll.
Councilmember Middleton. Aye. Councilmember Kavanaugh.
Aye.
Councilmember Dundon.
Aye.
Councilmember Costi.
Aye.
Councilmember Hotchkiss.
Aye.
Council President Matavetsky.
Aye.
Thank you. That's 6-0.
So RL 24-138 will be expedited to Wednesday's meeting. All right. Any further discussion?
Nate, we can
Councilman
probably,
Kavanaugh.
sorry, we could probably get you in there. I mean, it's still an active building, probably maybe even get you in there tomorrow. We can work on that. Just working on some of the background. So things that were identified when the project was originally up, when this was being originally considered, some of the deficiencies that were found then have actually been fixed by St. Mary's. It's in better shape now than it was a few years ago, actually. So there's been good progress. Like this is, I think, an almost unalloyed good for the city and for the space and really for the community. But absolutely, I think we should try and get in there for you and before Wednesday.
All right. All right. So next we have RL 24-135. And both the chair and presenter are Councilman Hotchkiss.
Thank you. So this is an ordinance amending the code chapter 307-33 and 307-35. We're back to our food carts chapter. This time I am looking to update some of the language around the applications. So in the current charter right now, there is a 1 month period from the second week of February to the second week of March where applicants can apply. And if you don't get your application in that period, you have to wait until the following year. Additionally, there's 6 spots that are available, and if there are more than 6 applicants, it'll go to a lottery system. So I think there's room for improvement with that system, and that's what I'm seeking to do with these changes. So rather than the 1 month period, it's going to be, I'm looking to have a rolling applications starting January 15th of the year. And on a first come, first served basis, they'll be granted. So it eliminates the lottery. And there's also a few other notes in here. There's only one license that will be granted per person. That's specifically I think that's really what we want to do with a license, especially when there's only 6 spots available. There's been previous thoughts that folks could get multiple licenses and kind of monopolize those spaces or not use them just to prevent food carts from using them. I think this alleviates that, and we have a little bit of an update to allow for the fire marshal to make any inspections for compliance. Is there any questions about this piece?
There's a food cart owner that reached out, and they were concerned. So I'm definitely interested in hearing more from food cart people to understand a little bit more about how this impacts existing food carts as well as proposed up and coming food carts. One of the issues that was raised on the phone with me today was people that purchase licenses for and only use them for special events or occasions versus the food carts that are there, daily or weekly or that are putting in more work. So there was the caller had a sense of kind of what about the people that have been doing this for a long time and how this impacts them if they don't get their same spot or if there was also a discussion of the multi-location that I had on this, and they were saying that in the past they've bought two locations because of construction. So their normal spot for a good portion of the year was not going to be really functional. So they had a second spot. I haven't vetted anything that they said, but it was an interesting call. So I'm throwing out there that there's more thoughts or things that we might want to look into.
Yeah, and thank you for that feedback. I think in that scenario, if you're trying to avoid construction and stay open, I think that's something that I hadn't considered. And mostly like the scenarios that I was thinking about was somebody that's just trying to move around in freely accessible spots. So yeah, I think the last piece is that the current one, it honors spaces that in the lottery system, it's like if you had a space before, you're applying again, you automatically get that spot. I think there's a benefit obviously to the vendor with that, but then it doesn't necessarily allow for new people to come in. And it's more problematic when it's somebody that's buying that spot but not using it versus someone who's buying and using it. So there's a little leeway, but I'm trying to do the best I can with this, and it was, we can still fix it before voting on it. But
Kavanaugh.
Question for the city clerk. Of the 6 spots, how many are actually taken right now? And 4 out of 6.
Currently 4 spots are taken.
All right. And do you see an issue with this longer rolling application period versus the tighter period?
I don't, particularly considering that we've actually received constituent comments stating that the application period is too difficult to conform to.
Okay. I do think some consideration should be given to actively operating businesses that are already have a license in a place. So I'm wondering if we can make a tweak somehow in there that's going to allow for, I don't know if we want to put a test in there for how active you have been or not. That might be too complicated, but it would be rough if you've been operating business in a spot for even just a year and somebody gets to the clerk's window at 9:01 and you show up at 9:02 and you lose your business. I think that's a legitimate concern. Right. But I'm sure, well, maybe we want to have spot preferences. I don't know. So I do think we should have some sort of consideration for that eventuality. But I also appreciate Councilman Hotchkiss, sorry. Hotchkiss's point of view that there should be some also encouragement of new folks coming in. So I don't know. Thoughts?
I kind of had the same thought that if you want to encourage people to invest in this little business, like they probably want to look out further than 1 year, and then not having that opportunity to continue or the certainty that they could continue in a single spot seems discouraging. Well, so there's a balance we have to strike there for sure.
I mean, to me, the only fair way to do that would be then do a full lottery. Either you let people who are grandfathered in keep their spot, or instead of doing a first come, first serve, so no one gets chipped by a minute because, their kid was sick and they couldn't make it there by that minute. So then you take how many people, and if you get your full 6 spots, you run it off a lottery. That'd be the only fair way.
Any further comment? Councilman Hotchkiss?
I see what you're saying.
Well, Councilman, you could do it like the NBA draft, and then your lottery gives you a pick of what space you want. So if your number comes up first, you get a pick of the space. That way, if you've had that space before, you can pick your space again. And then if you didn't and you wanted to try another space, well, through the lottery you won, and then you get, picks based off how many are left. And if you take.
Would the clerk like to jump in?
That would necessitate a deadline then, so
So if we're
legislation
taking
change.
permits to January 15th, we could do the lottery by January 31st. Yeah. Yeah. Well, if
And
we're,
yeah, there's a lot of ways that we could do this.
well, if we have 6 people, we don't, I mean, you won't really need a deadline. You can run the lottery. If only 4 people apply, you can just let them pick them. I mean, it's up to you guys. I haven't worked
Well,
on
like
this thoroughly.
A fixed deadline and a rolling deadline, a fixed deadline for if you want to be part of the lotto and a rolling deadline for if there's continues to be extra spots. Good approach. All right,
I'll take that into consideration.
okay. Um, all right, so if there's no further discussion on this, I think we're done. There, motion to adjourn?
Motion.
Yeah.
Motion by Councilman Dundon, seconded by Councilman Middleton, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye, any opposed? Great, have a good night.